I hear you say America has 800 bases and China has one, and I feel comforted by that. I don't like the idea of China of the reverse of those numbers. In other words, my assumption is someone's going to be on top. Better it be us than it be China. And when I hear you articulate your ideas about foreign policy, what I hear basically is retreat. What I hear basically is we're overextended, and the way that we solve that overextension in your mind is pulling back from the world. And I take your point that we've been involved in some unwinnable, absolutely feckless wars. But my assumption is someone is going to fill the vacuum. And I would so much rather it be us than it be Xi Jinping. Why do you disagree with that?
Number one, do you think it's made us safer around the world? Do you think it's made Americans safer to have our military all over the world?
I think it has absolutely made us safer to have America be the world's hegemon than have China be the world's hegemon. And I think someone's going to be. That's my argument. Someone is going to be.
I'm not suggesting that we put ourselves in a militarily inferior position from China. We spend 3 times on our military what China spends on it. We can make substantial reductions in military without reducing our capacity to use military power when it's called for around the world. But the fact that we have 800 bases around the world and that we spend so much of our national economy on weapons makes it inevitable that we are continually embroiled in wars. Now, what happens when why was the World Trade Center attacked?
Because some terrorists hijacked planes and drove them into the World Trade Center.
And what was their justification for doing that?
Hating American empire.
Because we had troops in Saudi Arabia, which is the home of Mecca. That is what Osama bin Laden said why he attacked, the United States of America.
But do you believe that?
Do I believe it? Why? There's no reason not to believe it. Why else would he attack us?
Because he hates the West and the decadence and the girls gone wild and the bikinis and the Constitution. That's why.
He hates us for our freedoms? No, I do not believe that. I believe that our military around the world is stirring up hatred of America. And when I was a kid, people all over the world loved America, and we did not have to have X-rays to get on our airplanes. When my uncle was president, he refused to send troops abroad. Combat troops. He never sent any combat troop abroad. And there are more statues to him, more boulevards named after him, more avenues, more universities named after him than any other president. People loved our country at that time.
So
and nobody was sending terrorists over to attack America. That began when we started American empire abroad, and that, of course, is very predictable. If we are killing people abroad, that is going to come home to us.
So you think 9/11 was Americans' chickens coming home to roost?
That's your way of characterizing it. I'm saying that our presence in all these bases around the world, the people who perpetrated that atrocity, that violence, that historic violence against our country, said they were doing it because we had a base near Mecca, near their sacred city, and their religious texts tell them that foreigners having a base near Mecca is offensive to their religion, and that anybody who's faithful to that religion should die rather than allow that to happen. So, I take them at their word. That's just one of our bases. We have 800 bases around the world, and everywhere there's a base, every time there's a drone strike, we have the possibility of making other people hate America and want religious war on America. So, I'm saying that the more that we spend on our military abroad, the less safe Americans are at home and abroad. If we want Americans safe at home, we should do more what my uncle wanted to do and what a formula the Chinese today are following, which is to project economic power abroad. The Chinese don't want to have a war with us.
No, the Chinese want imperial control over all of Africa. The Chinese want to control ports and harbors everywhere around the world.
And you know how they're doing that?
By buying up ports and harbors and by opening schools that are Mandarin-only schools across Africa.
Why aren't we doing that? Because we're trying to compete using military power rather than economic power, and that because of that, the Chinese are out-competing us. I'm not scared of an economic competition with the Chinese. I think American ingenuity, I have faith in our ingenuity, our energy, our resourcefulness. I don't think the Chinese can compete with us economically, except for the fact that we have both hands tied behind our back because we do not have the money, or that we're putting so much of our resources, our human resources, our intellect, our manufacturing resources into military weapons that we do not have the capacity now to compete on any other playing field. And that's where we ought to be competing. We ought to be competing economically, and that will be good for us. It will be good for the Chinese, and it will be good for everybody else in the world. The people in the world want that. They want America competing economically, projecting economic power, not military power. We have made very, very few friends. And our friends, who were our friends are now leaving us for the Chinese because they like that approach better than being bossed around with weapons.